Texas probably has, and this is a topic that one of us is going to tackle, or together we will at some point, and maybe we're going to do it right now. In terms of if nobody's got any other comments or questions, and again, Matthew has dissected the spring game. Check out the video; it's on the Texas channel. He went live after the game. It's hard to argue that this program doesn't have the highest ceiling of any program in college football. I would argue that if you go over the last 50 years, I'm going to argue three other programs not above Texas. I'm just throwing them out as case studies. USC at its best, 1970s, John McKay, some of the greatest teams of all time. We could go through a litany of just ridiculous NFL talent. John Robinson, about a decade later, right after McKay, again, just, Ronnie Lott, Marcus Allen, Charles White, on and on and on and on. And then they played that well, obviously, in college, winning national championships. And then the Pete Carroll years of 9 years of dominance, where if you really dissect how good they were, even though they won only one national championship, they were like that close every year. And then you've got Ohio State, who posts most consistently elite, like never down since 2004. If you do the math, Matthew, they average 11-1 in the last 18 years. That's their average record. One loss. And then they were doing it way before that. Alabama, of course, under Nick Saban. Okay, you got the Bear Bryant era. Then you've got Nick Saban. And of course, they were the best program, winning championships the last 15 years. But now we'll see what Alabama is. We'll see if they, in a tougher SEC, if they fall back to just a really good program. But Texas has what all those schools have. But number one, they've got in-state talent over all three of them by far. California's still really good, but it's dwindling. And money. Those are the two differentiation points that I would give Texas over those three.
Yeah, I've heard this for so long. If Texas just could lock down the state and handpick who they want out of the state of Texas, you win the national championship. Like if you go look at that 2005 roster, 2009 roster, it's mostly Texas players. Ohio State, when they were really good during this, 2015 to 2020 era, a lot of Texas players are on those teams. Alabama, same thing. So if you could lock down the state hypothetically and just take who you wanted, I think Texas would be, if we were still in the top four era where college football playoff era was only 4 teams, I think we'd be there every year. And also, it's hard for me to say that just because I've only really ever seen it under Mac Brown. Obviously, I wasn't alive for the Darrell K. Royal era, but Mac was able to consistently basically ride in 10-2 every year is what he was averaging. But we never won enough national championships, in my opinion. We only had 2 appearances. We were 1-1 in those. So it's hard for me to say that we're up there as how'd you put it, Mark? The have the upper end talent program. How'd you word that?
Well, I just picked out those 3. I'm not saying, of course, Georgia fans don't get mad. I'm not excluding anybody else. Just those are the 3 that are still have that potential, but they've also shown it for long periods of time in the past, more so than anybody else that I can think of.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's up there as well. That hurts me to say that, but I mean, they've had a pretty long stretch of just being really damn good. Obviously, they haven't won a lot of national championships in the past 20, 25 years, but they're always consistently in the top 10. Ohio State, obviously, up there as well. I think Texas is right in that mix of 5 to 6 teams. I don't think Georgia's there, seeing as they had some rough stretches at certain points. And even under Mark Richt, I don't think they even were, you can even put that in the Mac Brown era, in my opinion. I think Mac Brown's era was better than Mark Richt's era. But I think Texas is right in that conversation. And I think with the NIL, it just helps out so much more because, like you said, Texas is swimming in money, especially oil money. I mean, the state literally has it written in their legislation where we get oil money from the state every year. So it helps out. And hopefully we can, keep this train going. It's going really well in every other sport. And that's what another thing Texas fans are saying is like, we're good in every other sport. Can we just be good in football? We're good in volleyball. We're good in tennis. We're good in track and field. We're up until this year really, really good in baseball with the most College World Series appearances of all time. And then basketball is starting to get on that track too. And now football is finally there. Like last year was really good. And I know people are questioning whether Steve Sarkisian can keep it going, but I thought he did a really good job at Washington. If you want to debate the USC thing, that's fine. Obviously, he solved his issues off the field from them. So I think we can definitely be that under Steve Sarkisian. I think he even saw that with his comments about the Alabama job, saying, I considered it for 60 seconds, but I want to see this through. This is too good of a situation. So I definitely think we're in that conversation.
I think what might be a huge determining factor going forward is how the money's distributed. So if going forward and paying players, it's just another version of the Wild Wild West, then Texas has a huge advantage just because there's a ton of Texas money and they love football and they're committed to it and they've got all that oil money. On the other hand, if whether it's the SEC and the Big Ten really get hold of all of this and it's run in more of a socialistic standpoint of let's distribute the money equally, you're still going to have the Texas of the world, supplement their programs with even more money, as opposed to, again, my first model was if we distribute money based on how much you're worth, how much you can just make on your own, and allow everybody just to be their own company, then that's going to serve Texas. That's going to serve the other programs we highlighted too, but even more so Texas because of the money that they have in that state, as opposed to, again, if this completely gets taken over by, let's say, the SEC and the Big Ten, and they form some kind of a league like the NFL, well, there's a reason that the Green Bay Packers can survive against teams from New York City because they all get the same amount of money. So they can sit in a town of 50,000 people and play for NFL championships because that's how they run the sport. Sonny here says LSU is probably just a notch below. Only school in a talent-rich state that is obsessed with the university, and they seem to have periods of success every few years. Well, yes, when LSU puts it together, when they've got a coach who has a functioning brain, who doesn't get in the way of all the talent that they recruit, they obviously go out and win national championships on occasion. But yeah, they get in their way most of the time. It's obviously a small state, but per capita, they produce more NFL players than anyone. And if you're looking at large cities that produce the most, it's Houston and it's Atlanta.
Yeah, and actually to hit on that, I think Texas and LSU are pretty similar. Like if you look at it, when they've had the right guy, they kind of dominate, and when they don't, they're just eh. And it doesn't even take like really an all-time great coach. I mean, no offense to Ed Orgeron, he's not an all-time great coach. He did really good in the transfer portal, bringing in Joe Burrow, and then also on that point with Sonny. Yeah, he's right. Like that whole state, if you look at the high school teams, they're all purple and gold, and a lot of them are named Tigers. So they're obsessed with that. I wish Texas could have convinced some more high schools to be Longhorns with the burnt orange and white, but I don't think there's any like that. So that would have helped out with recruiting a little bit more, especially in the last like 10 to 12 years. I know people are saying, well, Texas always recruits well. Yeah, we recruit well to certain positions. We just now started to recruit offensive and lesser defensive line talent like we used to.
Yeah, that's a really good ploy by some of the large schools and some of the large states where they get the high schools wearing the same colors with the same look. And I don't know, it can't be proven, but you would just think that that would seep into your brain after 4 years of playing high school football, that those are your favorite colors and you're attached to them and you're emotionally attached. And maybe it gives you just that much of a lean in recruiting battles. And yes, John, you nailed it exactly. That was a shot at Coach O. That was a shot at Les Miles. But no, that was not a shot at Nick Saban and not a shot at Brian Kelly by me.
Hey, and by the way, I know we'll get into this later. I won't give it away, but you and I agree on Brian Kelly because I actually, like 2 or 3 months ago, was ranking SEC coaches, and I think I ranked Brian Kelly the second best coach in the SEC, I believe. So we agree on Brian Kelly.
Yeah, it's going to be now that he is at LSU and they still don't quite have the team put together. He inherited a pretty bad roster for what you would expect at LSU. So he's taken some time to try to turn over that program and that roster. And he's had, the last 2 seasons. I wouldn't say that he deserves a parade or anything, nor does he deserve to be criticized. He's pretty much done a good job, capable job with what they've had the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Schraub. Dabo and Clemson. That's I don't think you can avoid using the transfer portal. You
No.
just can't survive.
I mean, that's if he doesn't win the ACC this year, then I don't know it. I mean, he probably will at some point if the ACC is still around, just because it's not a great conference. But it's going to be even more down this year because I don't think Florida State's going to be as good as they were last year. They should win it.
All right, folks, we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And again, our Texas channel is up and running, and we've got content there, and we deliver this show over there, simulcasting right now on Mondays, right now, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. So we would hope that you would lock in over there.